Don't ruin your life. Eliminate magical thinking. Magical thinking is the belief that certain objects, actions, words, and thoughts can change events in the physical world despite no proven connection between the two. With men, magical thinking is generally manifested as a belief in talismans or ritual acts. The talisman might be a coin or other object. The ritual act might be touching something or saying a particular phrase. This kind of magical thinking is generally harmless. With women, magical thinking often takes the form of holding on to certain thoughts and ideas or avoiding certain thoughts and ideas. A common form of female magical thinking is a belief that avoiding thoughts about personal danger will prevent it. That is, if a woman doesn't think about being assaulted, robbed, raped, or killed by a human predator, then the chances of these things happening is greatly reduced or even eliminated. From what I've observed, a very large percentage of women hold this belief despite crime statistics, despite the daily news, despite true crime shows that most often deal with female victims, and despite knowing that evil people are found everywhere. They believe that violence will happen to someone else. If they learn of a female crime victim, they may think, "It's a shame, but she must have done something wrong, and I'm not like her, so it won't happen to me." However, if you think random, unexpected attacks can't happen to you, you're wrong. Search the internet for true crime stories and you'll find hundreds of examples of good people going about their daily lives who became victims of human predators. I personally met someone whose normal middle-class sister was randomly abducted by a psychopath, someone she had never met, and was driven to a remote location and eventually killed with a shotgun. As part of their magical thinking thought taboo, many women also refuse to take protective measures such as carrying a weapon or learning how to fight. Others will knowingly and repeatedly put themselves in dangerous situations or locations. If reminded of the risk, they'll dismiss it with some version of the magical thinking formula, "I just don't think about it," or "I just don't worry about it." I'm not exaggerating how common this type of female magical thinking is. You can ask the most intelligent of women why they don't carry any sort of weapon, even pepper spray, or why they don't learn some basic fighting skills, and you will likely get a version of the previous statements, even though females are well known to be the favorite target of human predators. A woman will often have 3 beliefs associated with magical thinking about personal danger. The first is that if attacked, she can say the right things or act in a helpless, non-threatening way, and her attacker won't harm her. The second associated belief is that the police will protect me, or bystanders will protect me, or someone will help me or call the police. A moment's reflection should erase any confidence in police protection. If the police actually protected the public, how is it possible that every single day people are robbed, beaten, raped, abducted, shot, stabbed, bludgeoned, and strangled? Clearly, the police did not protect these people. The police didn't protect them yesterday or today, and they won't protect them tomorrow or years into the future. Only in rare instances do the police actually stop criminals before they commit a crime. And the number of crimes committed has always tremendously outnumbered the number of crimes prevented or solved by the police. The third associated belief is revealed when someone suggests to a female magical thinker that she carry a serious weapon, a gun or a knife, just in case, and the response is, "Even if I had a weapon, I couldn't use it on someone." This reluctance to hurt another person, even someone attempting to harm or kill, seems to be hardwired into most women. In contrast, this inhibition seems to be reduced or entirely lacking in most men. In my view, a woman who says she wouldn't fight back with potentially lethal force to protect her body or life is also saying that, 1, she believes her body or life aren't worth defending, And or 2, she believes her life isn't worth anything to her fiancé, husband, or children, and or 3, she has no responsibility to prevent her attacker from harming future victims. The first 2 indicate stunningly low self-esteem, and the third, a certain disregard for fellow human beings. By the way, my mentioning firearms isn't a recommendation to own or carry one. If you don't feel safe or competent in carrying one or even keeping one at home, then don't. If you do not or will not own a gun, the next best defensive weapon is pepper spray or other eye irritants. If you do carry pepper spray, it must be quickly accessible and actually in your hand in situations where you're most likely to be attacked. Otherwise, it's effectively worthless. Moving on from self-defense, another common type of female magical thinking involves changing men. Some women can experience clear evidence that a particular man is a poor choice as a mate, but will believe that her guidance, persuasive abilities, innate goodness, and love will fix his character defects. They'll believe this, even if the man shows no inclination to change, or even no awareness of his flaws. A brief detour regarding terminology. When I say character, I mean fundamental personality traits plus addictions. Some of these components of character appear early in life and some only later. Whatever their causes, personality traits and addictions are deeply embedded in our minds, making them extremely hard to change. These components of character are worth examining, so I'll continue with the detour from magical thinking. The so-called Big Five fundamental personality traits are agreeableness, neuroticism, openness, extroversion, and conscientiousness. Your overall personality is the combination of these traits, each one of which you have to one degree or another. Personality traits appear to be fairly fixed at an early age. The addictions component of character generally become apparent later in life, somewhere in the latter half of the teens to the mid-20s. They can be physical addictions, such as addiction to drugs or alcohol, or they can be psychological addictions, which are the deep compulsions that can commandeer a person's actions periodically or can consume most of his or her life, for better or worse. People can be psychologically addicted to fame, the attention or adulation of the public, to wealth, to power, to social control, to violence, to adventure, to solitude, to family life, to gambling, work, sex, exercise, criminal life, or interacting with nature. You could call these things uncontrolled desires, but their influence, even in the face of repeated failures, poverty, damage to health, risk of imprisonment, risk of life, ignoring moral and ethical considerations, and loss of personal integrity. In the face of all these things, these uncontrolled desires are so persistent and so profound that I think they are rightly called psychological addictions. Psychological addictions, sometimes combined with one's particular talents and abilities, often influence a person's choice of career. Back to women's magical thinking about changing a man's character. Speaking literally, it can't be done. You can influence change in another person's character around the edges, but any genuine positive transformation must come from within that person. These transformations are almost always caused by an epiphany, in the sense of a clarifying or illuminating realization. The epiphany can result from a powerful life event, such as the death of a loved one, or in the case of a drug addict, finally ending up living on the street. Or it can appear from seemingly nowhere. The epiphany can be a sudden recognition of personal flaws, or of one's purpose in life, or a revised view of reality, or all of these things. I know a man who was living his dream of being a working cowboy when, while literally riding the range on his horse, an epiphany led him to leave that life completely and become a preacher, and a quite successful one at that. For women, Often the tool of last resort in attempting to change a man's character is threatening to leave him. And often it doesn't work. Actually leaving him may trigger his needed epiphany, but it may be too late for her to continue the relationship. All of this points to the crucial need for women to realistically assess a man's character before becoming romantically or legally attached to him, and to erase any magical thinking about fundamentally changing him. You should assume that what you see is what you get. Of course, you'll also get any things you refuse to see. You may think I've been especially hard on women since I dealt with male magical thinking in just a few sentences. But this is because of what I said previously. Male magical thinking is generally harmless. A woman's mind control magical thinking is a delusion that can, at worst, get her killed.